Well, it's that time again. Time to discuss how my week went. Alright, so Monday we started out with Lou Papillon's class, and the stretches are getting easier. I feel like I'm doing a lot better with everything. Being able to touch the ground with locked knees is really nice. So, it's pretty much the same start every time we do it. We do the Chi Kwang every time, and then we move on to something else. This week we had Robert get up there and he did a monologue and she walked him through trying to make it better according to her knowledge and whatnot, and I think it sounded a lot better. She did utilize like having him look at specific words and to take those words and elongate them and make them more powerful, and utilize where he was looking and what he was referencing and whatnot in order to make those words better. Francoise, typical voice stuff. Her class is pretty much the same every week. We add new stuff every now and then. This week we added in throwing a ball and saying a person's name and then their character name and their favorite Shakespearean character name. And then we went on to the usual vibrations and things like that, and that was pretty good. Then we went to stage combat. We have a whole new style of fencing. Well, not fencing. It's still rapier and dagger, but it's in a more fencing style. Instead of holding your dagger and rapier like this, now you hold them like this, or like this, or like this. And those are called high ward, broad ward, and low ward. And this is all a specific person's knowledge of rapier and dagger fighting. And we're learning how to do the stance as well as some attack and defense, which we haven't really started yet. Maybe we'll start that next week, who knows. After stage combat was over, I think the really cool thing about it is Rachel told me that I seem really natural in stage combat. And she thinks that if I brought that comfort level over to other things like ballet that we had to do in Lou's class and other types of stretches and exercises and warm-ups, if I just relaxed a little bit, then maybe things would get easier for me. And you know what? That made a lot of sense. So I tried it. And what do you know? It did. It's gotten so much easier to do some of these stretches and whatnot. That was stage combat. So then we moved on to Alex's class, the workbook class. And we talked about the globe and our trip there. And I've already talked about that in my last tape, so I'm not going to really go too much detail into it. The thing that was really interesting about this particular meeting was Emily brought up energy of the group and how we need to be, well, not how we need to be, but how we are sort of feeding off of each other. And because we're always feeding off of each other, if one of us is putting out a tired energy, it's going to bring down the energy of the rest of the group. And if one of us isn't paying attention and they're on their phone or something, it's going to be distracting. It's going to bring down the entire rest of the group. And so that was something that was brought up. And she's right. I know I was one of the biggest perpetrators of it. I haven't been since. In fact, I had stopped slightly before that because Madison had already brought it up to me specifically. I'm not going to just tell somebody no and do whatever the heck I want, because this is a group project and we're all here to learn, and I'm not going to take away somebody else's ability to learn because I'm not in a scene or whatever. Madison asked me specifically not to do something, so I'm not going to do it. And then the group discussed that we all need to not do that, and so it was a very important thing to be brought up. Tuesday, finished up ballet with Lou Papillon's class, and it was a little bit easier the second day than it was the first. I didn't snap at Lou this time. I was able to do everything that she asked. Maybe not as perfect as it could be, but as best as I possibly could, having only spent a literal 2 hours of ballet in my life. I went on to Ben's class, and I didn't get to sing this week, but that's okay. There's 8 people, and we can only get through 2 or 3 a day, depending on how much other talking and teaching Ben wants to do. So we moved into Colin's class, and we worked on the waltz a little bit more. And this particular move was a little bit difficult for me. So I have the girl's hand here. This is on her back. When you're leading and you're wanting to turn, you step with your left foot, which is your first, the first foot as you're leading. You pull back with this hand toward you, and you step into it. That's okay, but then all of a sudden we were switching feet and switching the way the turn would go. And so instead of starting with our left foot, this time we're starting with our right, which means that we end on our left. And so if you're starting on your right, it's the exact opposite. So instead of pulling towards you with this hand, you're actually pulling this way. Switching back and forth, so literally you do a full circle one way, and then you switch feet, and then you do a full circle the other way. That was so difficult for me, to switching back and forth. I don't know why. I can do the waltz up and down the room. I can do the turn in the corner. I can lead my partner into a turn around my hand. That's all easy, but for some reason switching feet back and forth was... Hopefully it'll get a little bit better next week. And then we went back into Ben's class, we did ensemble work, and he gave us some songs from As You Like It. So songs that we have to sing. I think we have 3 of them all together, only 2 of them everybody sings. One of them Amian sings by himself. Yeah, Jared plays Amians. After Ben's class, we moved on to Philida, and we did more RP. This one, we had to bring in a piece to share with Philida in RP, and what I chose was my Bassanio Portia monologue. So may the outward shows be less themselves, the world is still deceived with ornament. Yeah, I think it went pretty well. There was only a few things that she corrected me on, which I'm not too mad about that. If it's only a few things every now and then I'm doing pretty good. 80% is still passing. Then we moved on Wednesday, we went into Alex's class, and we ran the scenes with the sticks again, except for these sticks were a little bit easier to use. They were much lighter. Aubrey and I are using the sticks, and because they were lighter and we weren't concentrating so hard on them, and also because of the changes that we have made throughout learning this whole process of learning, we were able to keep them balanced more. We ran the scene with the sticks, didn't drop once. And then we moved on to the regular running of the scenes in front of Alex, and he seemed much happier with ours this time, and he gave us some nice notes on it that we're gonna look into and discuss and whatnot. So we're very happy with the way our scene turned out. Now we gotta go fix it again and present it next week. Then we moved into relaxation movement, and we started work on the torso, which involved us doing things like grabbing somebody's literal torso and lifting it up out of their spine to help them kind of get into a better alignment. And then finally we went to David Jackson's, and we ran the entirety of Act 1 off book, which, considering we've only sat there and read it on book, it was very difficult to do. I mean, we did active analysis, which helped us understand the whole scene and whatnot, but we never actually did the Shakespearean text while moving, so that made things really weird. Some people were not prepared at all. Other people knew their lines, but they had to find them, like myself. Thursday, more David Jackson stuff. We ran Act 2 and 3.1 off book, which I had managed to memorize all the way up to that point before then, so proud of myself for that. And then Friday, we ran Act 3 off book. I had to go home on Thursday night and memorize Act 3 because I hadn't quite memorized it at that point, which there wasn't a lot to memorize, but it was pretty intense memorization. We moved on to Carrie's class, and I sang Rising of the Moon again, and this time I was a little bit more off book on this one. I still had the words in front of me just in case I forgot, and I did forget a few times, but she likes the way I'm going with this one, so I'm very happy with the way this one's turning out. Basically what I'm going to be doing with it is trying to rally the troops, and the audience members are my troops. So what I'm going to be doing is weaving in and out, trying to sing in their ears and get them up and going with me. What we are going to be doing at the end is actually, they're going to be joining in on me, my last verse. When I get to the rising of the moon and the rising of the moon, they're going to be singing in with me. And then finally we went to Simon's class, and this is the first time his class has ever really connected with me. It was really nice. What we did is we turned off the lights, and he walked us through some breathing exercises, and then he asked us to do the Since Brass Nor Stone, No Earth, No Boundless Sea sonnet. And when we did it, he wanted us to move around the room and envision every single big word that we see. So brass, you envision something brass. Stone, you envision a stone, etc. I was the third person to go. I look around the room, and for some reason it just connected with me that I wasn't actually in that room. I was on a beach somewhere, and behind me was my home where I did, I guess, blacksmithing was what my mind decided to come up with. And there was a great big sheet of brass behind me, and so that was my first thing. I noticed the brass, and then I walked down to the beach and I saw stones, and I'd pick up a stone and I'd toss it. It's brass nor stone, and then nor earth. I just reached down and touched the earth. Nor boundless sea. I looked out to the completely blue sea. I was actually able to understand what I was saying by envisioning each of those words. I wish I had known about this the first day of class. After Simon's class, we went home. I watched V for Vendetta with Chris because it's the 6th of November. I wanted to watch it on the 5th, but I needed to memorize my lines on that Thursday. That was my week, so thanks for listening in. I'm doing pretty good so far. I'm very happy with the way everything's going. That's about all I can say about that. Bye.